For those of you who don't know me, I'm Margie Rafferty-Cushone. I've been a PIC chairperson now for a number of years. Feels like old home week, having everybody back. Yay, in person, yay. I'm very excited. Just to stress, we will not offer a hybrid option. Our meetings for this year will continue to be in person. It looks like everybody's okay with that because you're all here and you're all sitting next to each other, which means that everybody's really okay with that. So just some general rules of order. As you know, every meeting is taped, which at first made me very uncomfortable, but now with my smashingly red hair, I'm not all that uncomfortable with the idea anymore. By the way, this was a pandemic, temporary, semi-permanent, because I was all gray, as Marguerite will tell you. I was one of those champions of all gray hair, but that changed. Anyway, so, okay, so general rules of order. Typically what we do is PIC members, usually we have at least 2 from each school. They're allowed to participate and they're allowed to speak. If you want to invite anybody else to attend, those persons are not allowed to speak. And that includes PTA, or PTO president, parent organization presidents. But they are on the list and they are invited to attend, but however, they are not part of the meeting proper. So if they have any issues or concerns, you as the PIC member are supposed to bring them to the table. As speaking of topics, the way to bring topics to PIC, there's 2. There's one where you can email me privately, and I will, assess the question or concern. I will shop it to Mrs. Walker. Mrs. Walker and I will discuss it. If it's worthy of something that we feel is more widespread than just your personal concern, we will bring it to a PIC meeting. The other way is obviously go up the chain of command in your school. All of us know that word, chain of command. If there's a thing that you need to resolve that you're not getting resolved as a parent or as a PTO member or as a PIC member, I firmly suggest that you go up the chain of command in your school. I think there's documentation on the district website about what the chain of command is. That's also available to you. We can also put that link in the agenda when we put this into notes, so that way you have that handy. Finally, your responsibilities as a PIC member. They're very, very clear. We have a page on the website where you can go to see that as well. But in a nutshell, attend if you can, because like I said, there will not be a hybrid option. If short of that, you can also watch the video afterwards to take any notes or getting any further information if you can't attend in person. And then that information, those notes are supposed to be shopped to your parent organization meeting. I've had PTO presidents in the past approach me and say, I know I have a PIC member, they're not coming to the meetings, we don't know what's going on in the district, we're not sure what's going on, can you make sure that, you let the PIC members know that their key responsibility is to get the information that you get here to the PTO organization, PTA, whatever your parent organization outfit is. So that's your key responsibility. Now, Hope Anderson, I have to bring up her name, was so good at taking notes that most of the PTA presidents that needed notes would just take them from Hope. Unfortunately, Hope was not able to be our member this year for the first time in a while. So you're going to have to either network amongst each other. I know somebody probably is an excellent note taker. If that person is out there and wants to share their notes with me, wants to share their notes with the group, I can absolutely disseminate notes that way if you'd like. But again, the meetings are taped. You can always watch them again if there's something that you missed. Questions, concerns, please feel free to bring them to me. I try to check my PIC email at least every day now that we're back in the swing of things. So I hopefully your voice will be heard. So as a last thing, why don't we go around the room real quick, just say your name and the school that you're from. If you're not from the school, if you want to just say your position in the district or in the town, I'd really appreciate it. It's just something I do on the first meeting and then we won't have to do it again. So why don't we start on that side of the room?
Brian Mason, River Plaza, elementary school.
Welcome, Brian.
Frank is home, Water Day, Vice President.
Welcome, Brian.
Jackie Scott, the Board of Ed.
Welcome, Jackie.
Karen Romano, Village.
Welcome, Karen.
Kristen Rennie, Native St. Elementary.
Welcome.
Karen Rodriguez, Native St. Elementary.
Welcome.
Allison Santa, Bay Shore Middle School.
Chris Rotolo, District Technology Communications Assistant.
Magic Man, Flash.
Samantha Cutler, Harmony. Samantha Cutler, Harmony.
Robin Monteleone, Nutsville. Lisa Kasevic, Ocean Avenue Elementary.
Krista Mason, River Plaza.
Kathleen Marinich, South.
Marguerite Stoppers,
doing the slideshow. Timothy Hicks, Assistant Superintendent. Mary Walker, Superintendent.
John Kerrigan, District Director of Evaluation and Assessment.
Good morning, Coach Jeffrey. It's very nice to meet everyone. If I haven't met you yet, I'm the new District Director of Curriculum Instruction for Student Programs.
Matt Kirkpatrick, District Director of Student Support Services.
Pat Ranella, Assistant Superintendent.
Meg Young, Equity and Inclusion Specialist and School Psychologist.
Okay, welcome everyone, welcome to
Couple
my
back there.
new. Oh, who did we forget? Oh, right in the back, the people in the back.
Michael Scranton, Principal Bayshore, and I'm the middle school representative.
Pete Smith, Principal Leonardo, I'm the elementary representative this year.
And Ace.
And Ace.
And this is Ace, yes.
Yeah,
Guest of honor.
all right, thank you very much, everyone. We'll begin the meeting, and welcome to all my newbies. Again, if you have questions or concerns, feel free to email me. You guys know where I live.
Okay, I just want to say hello to everybody. It's so nice to see everybody here in person, even though I don't see your whole face. It's just wonderful that we're all together. I know Margie had said that, like, you know, the presidents and vice presidents of CFA are welcome, but we're trying to keep it to 2 reps per school. So if 2 reps are coming, please don't have your president or vice president coming. Like, if they want to be here, I would recommend that they could be the rep, but as you see, the room is kind of full, and, you know, we are trying to keep things as you know, less people and more social distance as possible. We're kind of scrunched in here today. And if we had even more, that wouldn't be a good thing. Also, we kind of want to keep the representation even. We don't want like 4 from one school and 1 or none from another school. So, you know, we really do wish we had at least 1 rep from every school come every week, but no more than 2. That's just my preference. So we're going to start off with John Kerrigan, and he's going to do Lincoln, some curricular information, and the new district assessment hub.
Good morning, everybody. How are you?
Good morning.
So in my new position as District Director of Evaluation and Assessment, I wanted to try to raise more awareness and put out more information to parents in the community about the assessments that our students take. So one of the things I put together, and this has been shared out through some of the parent communications through email, is a district assessment hub. Your students take a lot of tests. We have Lincoln benchmark assessments in grades 2 through 12. High school students have SATs, PSATs. This year, the state of New Jersey put out the START-SHAWN assessments that we're required to give since there was no state testing last spring. So it can seem a lot to keep track of. And we just wanted to put out some information to you so that if you want to understand what these tests are or access resources to help your students, that it's all in one spot. AP exams as well for the high school students. You know, everything that we do is listed here on the bottom. We're required by the state to upload a testing schedule. So we have that here on the state template, and then we have something a little bit friendlier on the left that the teachers use to keep track of which tests are being given throughout the year, whether it's an ELA or a math or in science. We've also partnered up with the Middletown Public Library we partnered with the Middletown Public Library for the SAT. A lot of students do want to get SAT preparation. We do offer a half-year elective in our high schools, but if that's not an option, I know students like to take other classes. If that's not an option, the public library offers practice SATs once a month. So I've listed the dates on the assessment hub. If they're interested, they can sign up, and then that's all arranged through the Middletown Library. The Middletown Library is a great resource, by the way. They have tons of audiobooks, printed books, and opportunities. If you follow them on Twitter, or they have a really active Facebook page, there's tons of opportunities for our students. So I'm trying to build that connection in terms of assessment. Also, if you can go up just a little bit. For Lincoln specifically, I sent out a communication yesterday about the availability of the parent portal. And in case anyone's interested, on the assessment hub, I have a whole section devoted to Lincoln. It explains what the Lincoln platform is and what it means to interpret the scores. And you know, I can give a very brief overview right now. With Lincoln, it's a form of benchmarking. So it might be different than assessments you've taken as a student. Usually when you sit for a test, it's something summative, meaning you learned all this content, now you have to go and put the pedal to the metal and see how much you can remember. But with Lincoln, the ideology is we give students benchmarks on current year standards. So your 2nd through 12th grade students recently took a Form A assessment. So that was actually current year standards, things they might not have learned yet. But when we run those reports and we see what students are capable of, they actually do come in to the current grade level showing understanding of math concepts or English concepts. And the teachers, the math specialists, the reading development teachers, the middle school interventionists, all those stakeholder groups, and myself, we look at those reports and we try to get students involved in goal setting. And if we see that they're showing mastery in something already, then we don't need to reteach that again this year for a prolonged period of time. We want to adapt our curriculum so that we're giving students exactly what they need. So that's what the assessments are, and they take them 3 times over the year. They're more or less the same, but there might be some slight differences in them. But the idea is to show growth over the course of the year. So the Form A test, you'll see probably the lowest result, and that's okay. So if you see a score like a 30 or a 40, that actually just means that they already have a 40% understanding of current year's topics, things they haven't necessarily been taught yet. So that's actually a good thing if you see something like that. But as the year goes on, once they take Form B and Form C being at the end of the year, you should see something more indicative of mastering a full year's worth of content. So in case anyone needs, there's some more documents here, there's some videos, there's a more detailed explanation of the Linkit assessments. I also put together, if any parent is interested in helping their child at home, I have for every single grade, every standard, math and ELA, if you want to give your students some additional practice or help them in their own goal setting. This document here is a live document, and you can use that at home if you're interested. I thought maybe I could just show the Linkit Parent Portal very quickly. This is what yesterday's email communication was about. I know there some people lost their code or their email, so I've been in the process of getting back to everybody who's contacting me. If anybody needs one, please feel free to reach out. But as a parent, on the Linkit Parent Portal, you're able to log in and see your child's full assessment history on Linkit. So I borrowed Abby Friend, she's a district employee with kids at Village. So I have her permission. Maybe we can click on Zoe, she's in 2nd grade. So Zoe just took Linkit Form A over at Village. And as a parent, let's go to math. As a parent, Abby is able to see that her daughter already scored 80% on the math for 2nd grade. Wow, that's really good. She has a pretty good understanding of 2nd grade content. And if we click even further on the magnifying glass, we can really drill down into the questions and the standards and how well Zoe did on each standard. The Linkit assessments usually do 3 questions for each standard as a way of calibrating how well a student knows it. So already Zoe seems to be pretty good at measuring how much longer one object is compared to another. So that green is good. But maybe if we go down a little further, we might see red in some certain areas. So these might be topics that Zoe has not been exposed to yet, and that might be coming up later in the year. So these could be areas just to keep an eye on, and then the teacher in the classroom will see the green and might not need to spend that much time with Zoe on those topics. So it's very user-friendly. It gives it by standard, and then if you don't like the standards and the numbers and the letters, it also reports it by skill. So you can see a broad area like measurement, and those are another way we can look at the report. So we just wanted to give you more information and have you see what your students are doing, and I'll take questions. Yes.
What does the teacher's summary look like? Do they see it on a grade level, or where there's particular topics that they know they're going to need to sink into?
Yeah, there's lots of ways we can run the report. So this is an individual student report, but you can also run it at the classroom level. It gets run at the school level. It gets run at the district level. So when we report out at Board of Ed meetings, usually we report out, as a district, this is how we're doing. But then we can really funnel it down to the individual student. Yes?
As we're looking at including more kids in gen ed, particularly children with intellectual disabilities, is there anything, there are a lot of systems like with reading, you have this level and then the same story can be read at a lower level. I know there are accommodations, read to or listen to it on, but I have to say for a lot of parents who have their kids included, it's kind of a frustrating exercise because their kids aren't at the grade level, right? Their work's being modified in the classroom. So we already know they're not at grade level. So to kind of do this assessment at grade level can be very frustrating for the kids. So
Right,
two
additional.
sentences, or something like that. I don't know if that's available, I'm
Yeah.
kind of curious.
I can certainly find out. I know that when they develop them, they try to use the same standards assessed on the state assessment. And
Yeah.
on the state assessment, I don't think there's removing of answers or modifying it. I think it's the same for everybody. But you would get those things like text to speech as an accommodation, but I can certainly ask.
Yeah, I would just,
Yeah.
it hasn't been a useful tool. I mean, I'll go look at it again. And then when I did it at home with her, she was so frustrated. She did great because I ended up helping her because I couldn't stand the frustration, So, anyway, just curious.
And also, I should mention too on the topic, they now have the assessments in Spanish. So now we were able to give the students whose native language is Spanish, we can give them the assessment in their native language. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I was just thinking, knowing that some of the content that's presented to the kids during these assessments, they haven't seen yet. We expect them to get it wrong, but as a parent, I might not know what my kid has learned yet in the class, and I'm looking, I don't see that there's a way within Linkit for it to like asterisk, your kid hasn't learned this yet, don't worry. But maybe the teachers, when they communicate out, could just say, heads up, like we've covered questions 1 through 20, but 21 beyond is beyond our kid's level, what you should expect. It might be helpful just to kind of, as a mechanism for the parents to read and really understand
That's
where
a
their
good
kid is individually. If you've already learned the material, my kid's still getting it wrong, I'm worried. If you haven't learned it, I'm like, okay, we'll wait and see how you do at the next one.
Maybe it's able just saying, this grade, this subject,
Yeah.
these are the expected items to get correct approximately based on where we're at now. Okay.
That might be helpful. And I know each teacher, I don't know if they teach chronologically, if the state prescribes you have to do this before this before this. I know in math it kind of makes sense, but it might be helpful just to communicate that to the parents in some way. Thank you.
Is the assessment hub different than the Linkit hub?
Yeah, so the assessment hub is just a website I made that's attached to the district website. This is just informational. It has information of every assessment that we give and that your students might take outside of school. And then the Linkit parent portal, that's run through Linkit. So you can access your child's results here, but if you're looking for ways to help them or additional stuff, that would be on the assessment hub.
And
Sorry
where
for some
can
of the
you find
websites.
that? I don't see it on the district website. Where is the assessment hub?
It should be linked under the curriculum and instruction tab. I can double check with Mr. Rotolo.
First option under the curriculum and instruction tab.
I should also add too on the assessment hub, if your child wants SAT prep, I have a bunch of released exams from the College Board that they put out on the Khan Academy links. There's a ton of stuff for all students, AP exams, anything that they would need is probably on the website. Yes.
The registration codes. Now, kids who, like I had a parent reach out to me yesterday who has a new second grader. She doesn't have a registration code. Did those already go out to the younger kids, or?
Yeah,
I know I set up my account for my older daughter, but I personally don't remember getting it for my second grader either.
Yeah, we did a mass import of all district students, so there should have been an automated email, but if there wasn't, because I'm seeing some people didn't get it, if she reaches out to me, I can send it to her directly.
Okay.
Do you know what the email address it came from? Like, I know when you're searching emails, it might be easier to search the from.
It probably had Linkit in it someplace.
The word Linkit.
Yeah.
Check your spam folders too, because
Okay.
sometimes it gets moved to spam.
And all kids are underneath one login, right?
So if I
Yeah.
For her multiple kids, they should all show up.
Your one login should have all your students.
Okay.
Yes.
Hi, is there someplace in the hub or elsewhere that gives you data on your school, on the grade, or is that disseminated, or is that just for?
Okay, so that we would report through the Board of Ed. So at our monthly meetings, we make some presentations, and then those are later posted on the district website as well. But those wouldn't be included on either of these.
But eventually they'll be on the website.
Yeah.
Like this month, later this month in October, we'll be reporting out on spring assessments. And then probably in December, we'll be looking at fall district assessments, like Lincoln.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Hope you enjoy the rest of your evening.
Sorry, I just had a question. I didn't know if you were going to cover Start Strong. Are you?
Oh, yeah,
Do we
so-
have any more information on that, when it's going to be?
Yeah, so I sent a message home to parents 2 weeks ago. It's coming up starting next week in elementary, and then for secondary, we're trying to do it in high school after the PSAT. There's so many different constraints, but it's a required test.
Okay.
The reason we have to give it is because there was no spring NJSLA last year, so the state's requiring it this year. They made it into a 45 to 60 minute test that can be taken during the child's class period. So they'll take it in their math class for grades 4 through Algebra 2. They'll take it in their ELA class, grades 4 through 10. And And then the science test is in grades 6, 9, and 12. For the 12th graders, they only have to take it if they're currently sitting in a science course. So if you have a 12th grader who's not in science, they don't have to take it. But if you have a 12th grader who is in science, they do have to take it. And the science assessments are cumulative based on the grade band. So the grade 6 science assessment covers upper elementary science. The grade 9 science assessment covers middle school science. And the grade 12 science assessment covers high school science. That's a lot of stuff. But it also, for math and ELA, it covers the year before. So it's another,
the year before.
Yeah, it's another mechanism for teachers to see what the students are coming in with, especially coming off of hybrid, remote, all those different types of instruction we've had since March 2020.
That's what I was going to ask. Is there kind of like a curve in there for the fact that these kids have not been in quote unquote typical school for almost 2 years, and now we're coming assessing after assessing down their throat?
So it's not meant to be an assessment that gets reported out on and that there's judgment on and schools are ranked on like we normally would with an NJSLA. It's more for teachers to see what students are coming in with. The tests are all multiple choice, so right when it's over, the teachers will get the students' scores immediately, and they'll be able to see what they recall from the previous year and what they might not recall, and where they might need to inject some, review of certain concepts from the previous year. Yes?
The senior assessment that you're talking about, the science, are there any ramifications if the seniors do not pass it, because we have senioritis and we've seen in the past where they just don't care? Okay.
No ramifications. I did look at last year. Last year the Start Strong was a pilot. We did not pilot it, but other districts did. And when I looked at math, ELA, and science, senior science by far was the worst. that was like totally skewed.
I just wanted to make sure I communicated clearly.
Yeah. We obviously want them to do their best, but like at the state level, senior science by far was very different than the other grades and subjects. Yes?
Will they then have spring testing as well?
Yes. It's a crazy off year with all the testing. Because we got off of it last spring, this year they're doubling down. But the NJSLA this year, that will be something that's counted, because now that we're back in full time, it'll be back to normal.
All right, if there's no more questions for Dr. Carrigan, we'll move on.
In regards to 2 specific student programs, one being the Civil Air Patrol, which we are hosting at our high school, and as well as CTE programs, which are Career Tech and Ed programs that we're looking at, and we have started planning. So I'm starting with the Civil Air Patrol. We have had several meetings with Lieutenant Cartwright and Major Gomes, and they had the Civil Air Patrol quadrant for Bayshore. And the Civil Air Patrol core values include integrity, volunteer service, excellence, and respect. So that's something that they really focus on when working with the students. On the right-hand side, you see their mission, which is supporting America's communities with emergency response, diverse aviation and ground services, youth development, and promotion of air, space, and cyber power. So in meeting with them over the past few months, they are also now focusing on cybersecurity, which is great because that is something that a lot of companies and schools, have a high focus on to keep everything very secure with technology. So in looking at Civil Air Patrol, they have 3 main missions: emergency services, cadet programs, as well as aerospace education. Okay, this video is a brief video, but it really does give all the things that we've been talking about, their missions, their values. It gives you a little bit of a look into what they do and all the major components of the program. They came and presented to the administration, as well as, meetings with central office staff and building administration to really research and kind of think about the best, approach and location for the program. So we were looking at High School North and High School South. It ended up being that High School South had a space which was perfect for them, because two things that they require is, an office space, and then they have a lot of different supplies and equipment they use to run their program. So the space that they're using is the old athletic director's office, so it's like the office space, and then there's a door that locks that goes in for the supplies and equipment that they would use with the students each week. The program runs at night, or will begin at night from 6 to 10 on Wednesdays, and it teaches all the things that the video kind of talked about, a lot of the things that we like to see in our schools, with leadership, character education, respect, teaching students about aerospace. So those are just some of the components. We did some walkthroughs of the buildings just to kind of assess the different spaces, because they would be doing certain drills. So just kind of, take into consideration and, the fields, and then if inclement weather, just kind of coming up with plan A and plan Bs, depending on what the situation is. They're very flexible and very grateful to, Middletown, being able to provide the space at night. We presented to the board on it during our last Board of Ed meeting, just to share the information and receive approval. And then yesterday was our kind of like final meeting to kind of go over any last minute questions that they had. We met with Tom Lawson, the lead principal, as well as Jim Rasmussen. They both, Jim is looking for his son to join the program, and Steve Trudell at High School South, his son is already in the program. But we went over to finalize the plans, do a walkthrough of all the spaces. They will be using classrooms to teach, certain skills and lessons. So we mapped out the classrooms. So we're very excited to get this up and running. At this Wednesday of this week, they will be starting to move their things in. And then we're going to give everybody a week of transition time. And then the program is anticipated to start on October 13th, which is the following Wednesday. Okay, so that is the first part. That's Civil Air Patrol. I don't know if you have any questions that you'd like me to answer. Yes.
What was kind of the origin of the program? Did they approach us, or did we seek them out? And I'm wondering how many kids are already registered, or how do kids raise their hand?
Yes, I believe they approached administration before I came on board, so it's something that...
So it's a regional squadron.
Okay.
So it's students from all of the area, like especially Monmouth County, participate. They had previously held their meetings and drills years ago at Mater Dei. When they kind of were removed from that location, they've been more recently at CBA. They lost their space there because they're actually tearing down the building that they were using on the campus at CBA. So they came to us because they said they do have a large number of students from Middletown who participate in the squadron, in the patrol. So they, and our vicinity close to the parkway, easy access for other students coming from other areas of Monmouth, Ocean, Middlesex County. So we met with them. They also approached us because they know that Middletown has deep ties and affiliation with the branches of the military. So and they know there's a long history here, in Middletown with that. So we did meet with them right before Project came on board, and then she kind of took over the process, working especially with Mr. Rasmussen over at South. It was something that he was very interested in promoting. He had students when he used to teach at Keyport who participated, and he saw the value in it. What we're really excited for is it really kind of fills a void for some of our students who were looking for things other than traditional extracurriculars like sports or clubs. It's very hands-on. It even involves students as young as middle school. So our middle school students who are interested in participating can join. We also like the fact that they were going to partner with us and support some of our very, very highly enrolled electives, like our robotics course, which gets a lot of positive feedback from our students at the middle school level. At the high school, our aeronautics and design class is very highly attended and enrolled every year. And we know Mr. Milnes over at High School North and Ms. Casper over at South They do a great job with rocketry and STEM, science, aeronautics, and the Civil Air Patrol, since we're hosting, they're going to give us a lot of materials for those courses to use. So the students who are involved in the program will be able to bring back what they're doing in the Civil Air Patrol and use it in coursework. So they're going to work with the teachers, they're going to work with Dr. Morales, Wendy Morales, in bringing in even new units of study that align with state standards, and more importantly, the resources and materials. They can bring in flight simulators, they can bring in, like I mentioned before, the rockets, so they can design their own rockets. They even indicated that they can do color guard at any of our ceremonies. So they'll, you know, if we have like a football game or anything where we want the color guard to come, they'll participate in that as well. So we thought it was a good addition to our offerings for our students. It's something different than what our middle school and high schoolers may already have at their disposal to get involved with. We also know that it's really good for students who are pursuing not just possible opportunities in the military, but students who want to go on to college. They do offer scholarships for students who are involved in the program. And if you are a student who's interested in perhaps attending, and we've had a lot of students in the past, attend like the Naval Academy, the Air Force Academy, West Point, you get priority selection and admission into those programs. They reserve a certain amount of their admits every year for members of the Civil Air Patrol. So that's a really positive thing for our students as well.
Back in the 90s in High School North, one of the teachers was actually an advisor, Mr. Flieger.
Yeah, we met him. He came to talk to us.
I'm sure he was, yeah. So he was a program back then. And one of my ex-students at Thorne actually was currently a Navy pilot, he went to the Naval Academy, but he was in Civil Air Patrol. But when he went to High School North, it wasn't on premise, I think, but it was at an all-site location. But to your point of, introducing students to careers in not necessarily the Navy, but there's other, you go to school just to become a pilot per se, right. College education for that. But so yeah, he's currently a Navy pilot. He sent me some cool selfies.
Yeah, he came to talk to us. He mentioned a few of your names, so I'm only kidding. And the other thing is it kind of gives students opportunities to learn new skill sets, especially hands-on, that job markets that have major voids are seeking, candidates that have those kind of skills. We all know that the airlines, there's major shortages in pilots, the people who work at, in the towers, on the ground, the ground crews. So they do a lot of work with the Port Authority and Newark Airport as well. So students who are involved can get internships. We've already started to talk to them about that. We've just been talking to them about possible internships for our students specifically in the squadron, with again like Port Authority and Newark Airport.
So what's the age group that goes down to middle school? So then our 6th graders and 12th graders participate?
I think it's 12 and up.
12, okay, up to graduating. And then do they enroll through their website, through us somehow?
We're going to work with them on enrolling the students. So I already contacted the high school administration at High School North and said, we will be housing the program at South, but I want to make sure that we have all students at both high schools involved. And Tama Lawson actually was having a PTA meeting last night, so he was sharing the presentation at his PTA meeting, so that way we can enroll more students.
And we'll do the same thing at North.
Exactly.
And then we'll start assisting them and getting information out to our middle school parents and students.
Is it rolling? Like, the kids join throughout the year, or they're like getting...
My understanding it's rolling.
Okay.
Yep.
Good question, thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any costs associated with the program?
Just the uniforms, but I think that's a really good part of the program because it really does teach, the students about just, going prepared, like Kim had mentioned with the soft skills, they talked a lot about that when students are going out to be employed, making sure that you're dressing the part, making sure that you're on time, just kind of all of those soft skills and how important they are in going into whatever career they choose, because there is no military obligation to, being in the Civil Air Patrol.
My understanding was about $100 they mentioned for, I think there were 2 uniforms. They're dress uniforms, and then I think you saw some of the kids, and when they're doing drills or if they're doing overnights outside or anything like that, activities, I think they wear a different set of uniforms.
And they said they do, yesterday we met with them, they did say they welcome parents, they really want parents to come in and see, they just, they're very transparent, they really want them to come
come in and see the benefits of the program, because the more all of us see the benefits, the more students that will, come and enroll. And anybody else for questions for that? Okay, all right, then I'm just gonna move on to the CTE piece. So a CTE is a career and tech educational program. There is a national career cluster framework that breaks into 16 particular career and tech ed programs. It's very comprehensive areas of study, and those 16 areas divide out to more than 79 career pathways, which is what we're starting to plan here at our high schools. So, there is a grant associated, which we can move into at a later point, because there's a lot of, you'll see through the presentation that there is a lot of legwork to creating these CTEs. But if you're going to move towards the grant under the new state law for Perkins 5, they are really encouraging that anything you do with the grant money also involves middle school students. So students are getting a greater exposure and an earlier exposure to these career pathways when they're in middle school. So when they get to high school, they have that knowledge of these programs if they'd like to enroll. Also, these programs bridge the secondary and post-secondary curriculum. So in order to become a CTE program of study, we have to have an articulation agreement with post-secondary schools. So it really does, if post-secondary is the child's path, it really does provide that support and that bridge between high school and college. And what I like, I would say the best about it is it really does encourage students to explore their passions, their interests, and it really does give them ownership over their career pathways that they decide to choose upon. Okay, so just in mapping this out, because I have done a lot of this in my prior district, just wanted everybody to be familiar with, or just get to know, there's a lot of steps in the planning and preparation process in order to begin one of these CTE programs. So a main part of it is that you build multiple stakeholders, you meet with multiple stakeholders, because you really want to make sure that the programs are equitable for all students and that they are representing different areas and passions that they are interested in. So, in my prior stakeholder group, I had like the special ed director, guidance counselors, teachers, administration, the Department of Education, the Department of Labor. So there's a lot of different stakeholders that get involved in the stakeholder groups. Also, in working with the Department of Education, it's really good because they have multiple members that work with CTE programs. There's one that I've been working with for a long time, but then when you break down to those specific programs and pathways, there is a DOE representative that's, leads that particular area and cluster. So in order to do research on their particular programs, hosting virtual meetings to, research the program, see if it fits the district, see if it fits the students' interests. So we've been doing a lot of virtual meetings with different members of the Department of Education. Also, had I mentioned before, with Perkins 5 and the new state plan, there's new guidelines that have come out that we need to be in alignment with, and the application's got a little bit more comprehensive. So when I talk kind of briefly about all these things, you have to have all these things in place before you could submit a CTE application to the Department of Education, or they'll just simply deny it. So you have to make sure you kind of have all your ducks in a row. Continue to elicit student feedback through the program identification process and developing student focus groups. So this week the students will be taking, we're starting at our middle school at 7th and 8th grade and moving into our high school, a student interest survey. So it really does ask them about their particular interests for subjects that they like the best, and then they do a particular rating. When they total all of their ratings, it will ask for the 3 highest areas. And then on the back, I've supplied the teachers with, once they rate themselves and they see the areas that are the highest rated, they then go back and relate to those career pathways that I was talking about in the beginning. So they'll see that they have interest in global logistics, or interest in business education
cluster is. So it just gives us a little bit more background. We supply them with a Google form, so we'll be able to analyze the results for middle school, for high school. So that way we can just see where the major areas of interest are, which will help us and support us in deciding upon what programs we choose to move forward with. Student focus groups is really about, I did this a lot in my para-district, just really getting in and talking with small groups of students, so that way you can get their feedback a little bit more one-on-one, going in with particular questions, making sure that all populations are involved in the design of the program, and making sure that all populations feel supported, so that they will have success in the programs. Teacher certifications is a big part of this. So if you're looking to implement, like, just give you an example, like an engineering CTE, the teachers have to have the specific teacher certifications for those areas. So you can have a very talented teacher in math, general math, but they can't just have a general math certification to teach the career and tech ed programs. It's very specialized. So that's something we have to do, once we decide on the programs, we have to review the teacher certifications as well. Contact with post-secondary institutions. Like I mentioned earlier, with the CTE application to send into the DOE, you have to indicate on there who you would be aligning with for the post-secondary opportunities. So the different schools that you would be, and have that partnership established prior to submitting the application. Analyzing data to project student enrollments. So the application actually asks you to give, like, over the course of 3 years, what will the projected enrollment look like? Work-based learning experiences. So in my previous work, just kind of looking at, if you're running like a biomedical program, you're contacting hospitals to see what types of opportunities that you can set up for the students, whether it be like a volunteer experience or an internship experience. If we're to do something like engineering, there's TNM right on Tyndall Road, so I've worked with TNM before. They've had architects come out and do presentations, like, for students, brought students to the work sites. So anything to kind of get them that real world experience. But they do have certain criteria you need to go by in order to set up those work-based learning experiences.
Bridget, I just want to also mention that this isn't just a singular pathway for students who want to go to college. When the CTE is really designed to have experience, to build skills in students who have all different pathways once they graduate high school. So it's really the partnership with the industry experts, the businesses, the consultants that we partner with, to make sure is important to make sure that they have multiple internships, jobs, workers who our students can partner with and shadow. So when you're talking about like a biomedical CTE, it's not just doctors, nurses, those that require bachelor's or higher degrees. It's also X-ray technicians, lab technicians, and other respiratory therapists, other routes as well. So that's really the whole focus of CTE, and in looking at our strategic plan and our district goals and how we wanted to broaden the experiences and really expand upon it. And this was even in our prior strategic plan, building opportunities for students who have multiple pathways once they leave the district. We felt that this was a really good road to go down. When we talked to Mrs. Walker and we talked to the curriculum committee and the principals.
Okay, administration of student surveys. So once we break down like the career clusters and pathways, we will send out another survey to the students to continue to get more feedback through the process of the different particular CTE areas that the district is thinking of. The Department of Labor, they're really important in the whole process because they do help students, like, they give presentations to students. A lot of our, ones I've done in the past were virtual, but they'll talk to students about the different careers that are out there, the different salaries of jobs that they can make, the jobs under these career tech ed programs. They really, have, they call it in demand, jobs in the workforce that they talk about. So they kind of give students a lot of guidance. They also sit on that advisory board once we have our advisory board established. So, and they also give me feedback on, when we get to it later down the road, the Perkins application. There is a hiring and training of a work-based learning advisor. So the DOE has a program that does that, and also Rutgers has a program that certifies somebody to help students and support students, like if they are to go out like into the field and do jobs and like internships. It's kind of like their coach, so they need to be certified to do that. Curriculum and training, scheduling, so just, making sure that what we're doing, is working with, both of the high school schedules, and that that's planned out much in advance, because we always start, scheduling, the year before. Funding, so that is a large part. Once you get your program up and developed, then you work towards that Perkins grant application, and it provides, grant money to the district to get your program up and running, which is very helpful to the success of the program. Spaces and locations, just kind of like looking at like long term, there's certain programs you may look at like for certain career pathways, but there may not be like a particular amount of space that you need, or just like if it's a culinary, you need, the kitchens and, refrigerators and all of that. So you have to kind of think about all the logistics before you decide on the program that you're going to be running. Establishing the advisory board I did speak about, and just benefits to building the CTE program of study. It is held in high regard when students go out to look for work. It is, working with Charlene and Human Resources, like they're looking for that, like when people are applying for jobs, to show that like CTE certification and work. So it is really a big benefit to students to show that they've been involved, because it is really rigorous and is very comprehensive programs that you build. And it is, for them to be part of one of those.
One of the main benefits of students participating in a CTE course pathway, and it's really, when we talk about it, it's like 3 or 4 elective areas, that they concentrate on during, say, grades 10 through 12. But they earn industry credentials. And so when they graduate from high school, they already, before even stepping foot in a college, they can have already earned those credentials to put on their resume. So if they want to go right into work, right into a career, or they want to go to a community college and take some extra courses to build a resume, they already have a basis from which to start with. So that's really important. They can also earn college credit, just like our Early College Academy opportunity had offered in the past. But this is a more concentrated approach because it's in this particular field. It's not like a broad liberal arts, associates of liberal arts, or associates of science.
Yes.
How does this compare, or how does it fit into the kind of the pathway program that exists at the high school? So would biomedical be like a sub-STEM pathway? Or would you pick biomed instead of STEM?
So that's what we're looking at right now.
Okay.
Like where are the intersections,
Okay.
and how can we streamline them?
Got it.
Yep.
And the survey for middle schoolers, when will that be going out? Will it be administrated during advisory? Just give our parents an FYI.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's actually the first survey is going out this week, the 6th and the 7th. At the high school, we'll take both days because of the A-B block. And the middle schools, I asked them to do it on whichever day worked better for their schedule, the 6th or the 7th. And they're going to be going out at the world history classes. So all the principals have touched base with their staff, and they were given out last week. So
in 7th and 8th grade, it'll be during their social studies classes,
Right.
8th grade in world history.
Okay.
I'm sorry, 9th grade in world history.
Yes.
Have we aligned ourselves with any industry people, corporations? Have we gotten any partnerships?
We haven't, we're kind of in the beginning planning stages, so we can't really do that until we identify what area, we want to move forward with. But, through having some like particular, working with the programs in the past, anybody like, like a TNM or, Monmouth Medical, and I know we have a lot of contacts here as well. Like they've said, like, once you guys kind of decide on your programs, then we can kind of move forward with, kind of discussing that. But we have to narrow it down more first, so we're still in the planning stages.
So the student survey responses are really the key drivers here.
Yeah.
So we don't want to put, ourselves too out in front of this, because we really want it to be student driven, based upon what their needs and wants are.
About how long of a process is this?
It really depends. We're at the beginning stages now, and we also have to put another survey out and do some more research on, like I said, like everything has to be in the CTE application. So just something I didn't even mention that's not up here is, when you decide on the 3 courses that you're putting out, you have to have all the curriculum approved by the Department of Education, and it all has to be uploaded in that CTE application. So you have to be able to back projected student enrollments. You have to have, the colleges for the post-secondary piece, on board, have written commitment to that. So until, we get, we're planning on putting this current survey out this week. And then once we kind of refine the areas that we're looking at, we'll be putting another survey out with those. So until we have it narrowed down, it kind of, we're doing the research now and the background work, but we're not really reaching out to everyone yet until we have those feedback pieces in place.
Is there a target school year?
So yeah, we were hoping to put our CTE application in by June, but it really will depend on, the feedback and how quickly everyone gets back to you. Sometimes with the Department of Ed, there's only one person working, on a particular area. Sometimes things take a little time to get processed.
And so that won't be for next year, because we've already done scheduling. It would be for the following year. So that's kind of our target for the following year.
Any other questions? Yes.
Just so I'm clear, so at the end of all of this, they get a certification?
So they will,
credentials.
Yeah, the term is industry credentials.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Is that on a transcript?
Yes.
And so it's the state who approves it? It's when we're applying for just approval to do it or the money to do it, or both?
Both.
Okay.
It's a multi-step process. So you can't apply for any grant funding until you have all of those places in place with the CTE application, which you submit to the Department of Education through the NJDOE homeroom. And then once you do that, they can send it back. It's not unlikely that they'll say, okay, you might need another internship experience, or you might need this. So depending on who's reviewing it, in what particular cluster it falls in. I've heard districts get theirs kicked back 5 times. I've heard them go through the first time, depending on who's looking at it. Yes.
Is there a plan to survey maybe even the 5th graders? Because those 5th graders will be in middle school by the time this is put into place. So would it be important to kind of know where they stand as to what programs they might be interested in as well?
They would be the next group.
Yeah.
The next
This
group
is a
that
high
we
school
survey.
program.
Yeah.
This is for high school students, not middle school. They're surveying the middle schools because we think by the time we get this started, those middle schoolers will be in high school.
Okay, so then the next round,
Yeah. Yes.
Are any neighboring districts or Monmouth County districts ahead of us on this, or what types of, how has it worked in the real world so far for the districts?
Bridget did this in Long Branch.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
so she has that experience and background.
So Freehold Regional has one of the most popular, probably advertised. They have the culinary arts program as part of the hospitality and culinary CTE track. They even run a operational restaurant, which members of the community can go to. It's a fully endorsed, credentialed, and certified restaurant. So the students learn everything from back end, of operations all the way to delivery, service. Long Branch has, I think, STEM, right? Bioengineering, TV studio, and biomedical. But they were they weren't all I was in Long Branch 16 years, so they were built over the past 10 to 12 years. So it is a little bit of a lengthy process, but worth it. Yes.
So you're talking about when this current 7th grade gets to high school, it would be ready for the district. But is it still eligible, can kids at the high school at that point, older, can you join as a 10th or 11th grader in a program with a 9th grader, I guess is my question.
So they really are, there is 3 courses within the sequence, and they have to be able to finish the 3 courses in that sequence, because they really want students to come out really ready, for whatever their pathway is. But to get that knowledge of those particular 3 courses. But courses can be different amounts of time, depending on, what pathway you're going with, what curriculum you're going with.
depends on who develops, if it's a curriculum that, certain CTEs have, curriculums that come with their particular program. Some, if you're, putting the sequence together, like, within the district, and you're putting together the curriculum, then you can decide how long the curriculum is, so it can vary.
Like, for example, there's a global supply chain and logistics pathway, which we all know right now is really important. We're all living the consequences of not having a really strong one right now. And that is something that Rutgers, the university up in New Brunswick, they actually co-authored the curriculum for the high school CTE pathways. So all of the high schools in New Jersey who offer that pathway for students follow the Rutgers curriculum.
Right, and that's a 3-year course.
So you're basically earning college, because it's the same curriculum that the college students use for their intro courses when they take that as a major.
Yes. How does something like this differ from the Career Center that is already in place for some of the kids in middle school? They go and they see the Career Center, because a lot of it seems like there's some overlap with some of the stuff that the Career Center actually offers.
Yeah, like what we're doing is really going by like the Perkins 5, the new state plan that's come out, and these are all components of that, and getting like the industry credentials and having the, option at the end to apply for that Perkins grant and get that funding to get your program up and running. I don't know if the Career Center has that component of it where you can apply for that particular grant piece associated with this.
Okay, if there's no more questions, we'll go ahead. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, thank you for having me. So I just want to talk a little bit about the restorative practices training that we just started the last few weeks. This is kind of to backtrack a little bit. This was really born out of the last 18 months to 2 years, talking about ways to address student behavior and respond to student behavior that might be different than our traditional disciplinary code of conduct. So there was some dialogue last year between administration and administrators in the buildings and counselors about restorative practices and what restorative practices could look like. And one of the things that we kept hearing from administrators is that they hadn't had a lot of formal training or professional development in restorative practices. So we started to look into options for that, and the IIRP is the International Institute for Restorative Practices. I believe they're based out of Pennsylvania, and they offer very comprehensive and in-depth training, but it's extremely costly. That was kind of a little bit out of reach for us, but we became aware of an opportunity through the Juvenile Justice Commission, or the JCC. For those of you who aren't familiar with the JCC, that's kind of the juvenile arm of the Monmouth County court system. And they had developed a Train the Trainer program through IIRP. So they teamed with the Mental Health Association of Monmouth County to train different collaborators throughout the county to go out into school districts and train administrators and counselors and teachers in restorative practices. Okay, sorry. So what we did was we put together a training. There were about 30 to 35 of us in the training. It was the administrative teams from North and South, Bayshore, Thompson, and Thorne. And then there was a limit on the number of people we could have in the training, so we were only able to start with 3 elementary schools. So we chose Bayview, Ocean Avenue, and River Plaza. So they were able to send administrators and counselors from those buildings. So just to back up, the philosophy of restorative practices is really a focus on relationships and communities. We've had these conversations in pockets over the years, but in the last 2 years, it's become very apparent that we really need to focus on the social emotional wellness of our students and our environments. So restorative practices attempts to shift the climate and culture to a more affect-aware environment, where we can help students learn to reflect on how their behavior not only impacts themselves and their own learning, but how their behavior impacts others around them, in a one-to-one relationship level, at the classroom level, or even at the school level. So it's really attempting to create a structure where students can have that space to reflect on their impact, and then also when they engage in behavior that causes harm or damage in a relationship or to an environment, that there's a space and structure and support and guidance in place to help the students restore or repair those relationships. So different types of restorative practices, it's really a range, and this was emphasized over and over in the training, that this is really a slow build because it's about changing mindsets, changing narratives around student behavior, and that it really just starts with each individual, and then we eventually grow this out through our relationships and our community. So you can start with something as simple as affective statements. I'm sure many of you have heard of these before. They're like I statements, where we really start to talk about how things make us feel. Not just what they make us think, but how they actually make us feel. And then it goes on to affective questioning, which is really inviting students to start to explore how things have made them feel. Small impromptu conversations, which is where we see more of the relationship building. So this is just teachers saying hi to every student as they enter the classroom, administrators talking to students in the hallways. And then we move into some of the more formal restorative practices such as circles and formal restorative conferences. Circles really lends itself nicely to the building of classroom cultures. And we see a little bit of that with our morning meetings. Responsive classroom lends itself nicely to this. And done well, restorative practices really hit on all the core competencies of social emotional learning that we're trying to develop and build with our student population. So these conversations, even small conversations, can really help students focus in on their self-awareness, their ability to self-regulate, relationship skills, decision-making skills, and of course their social awareness. And it gives the adults in the environment the opportunity to really look at this from an instructional lens versus a discipline or a punitive lens. So in these conversations, when you are reflecting with students, you can start to see, is this a skill deficit? Is the student engaging in this behavior because they simply don't have the skills to do something different? Or is it a performance deficit? Are they being motivated to behave in this way for some reason? And that really is important information to have because it can help guide your intervention in a much more meaningful way. So restorative practice was really just another piece in our scope of supportive practices. We've been working to try and infuse social emotional learning competencies in more areas. Social emotional learning is something that can be integrated and infused in really all areas of school life, or it can be taught kind of discreetly in isolation. We have a range of mental health services available throughout the district. There's been trainings going on for years in different buildings about trauma-informed settings and how to create trauma-informed settings at the school and classroom level. And then restorative practices was just another component that we added to that really student-centered range of supportive services.
I think Lisa's getting antsy.
That was me.
So our next steps are really continued professional development. Like I said, we did the first 2-day training was really a lot of exposure to the concepts of restorative practices. We spent a lot of time in role play, practicing what these things would actually look like in real life in the buildings. All the administrators and counselors left with little cheat sheet cards. And the feedback that we've gotten so far is that right away the administrators were able to go back to their buildings and start using some of the restorative questions in their dialogues with students around behavior, and already starting to see small shifts away from, a student engages in a behavior, they come to see the administrator, code of conduct, they're just given a black and white consequence. It lends itself to much more meaningful reflection and more meaningful dialogue and some different outcomes, which is our ultimate goal. So we're working on continued professional development, that slow build of climate and culture change, the use of restorative question in dialogue with students, and where administrators might see opportunities in the code of conduct maybe to do something different than what was traditionally done. And then ultimately, the process goals comes back to, again, like I started with, that social emotional wellness of our students and our environments, more focusing on relationships, starting to change mindsets, starting to look at different narratives around student behavior. It's not just that a student did something and receives a punitive consequence, but starting to understand why students are acting in the way they're acting at times, and what might be more logical outcomes for them that could actually be meaningful and a learning opportunity. Creating more inclusive communities and nurturing that sense of belonging. We know that in order for students to learn, they have to be in the classroom, but not just physically. They have to be in the classroom emotionally and mentally to have their brains kind of primed for that learning. So that's one of the ultimate goals. Any questions?
When, you said you had 3 elementary schools involved so far, so is there a plan to roll it out to the rest?
We haven't gotten that far yet, but we're moving in that direction. This was a train the trainer program, so now we can kind of start to like turnkey and talk to the other elementary schools. A lot of these practices, actually, what became apparent was that there were differences between secondary and elementary administration in terms of practices they were already engaging in their buildings.
And although we're not formally training those other elementary schools at this time, we are turnkeying that information. It is a philosophy that we're infusing in all 16 of the schools. We have conversations on a regular basis with regard to discipline and how we're addressing community in our buildings. So although they're excluded, it's an inclusive conversation that everyone's involved in.
It sounds a lot, or it sounds like it could fit with the responsive classroom stuff that was happening in elementary school. That's still happening actively, and does this kind of, is this just like an extension of that?
So responsive classroom is a very specific program that happens in all the elementary schools, and we've started to move that into some of the middle schools have started to pilot use of it. It lends itself easier to an elementary environment just because of the way the morning meetings are set up, and it's kind of one adult with a group of students throughout the day. But this fits in very nicely with that. That's also like a social emotional learning program. Like I said, done well, restorative practices hits all the competencies of social emotional learning. So they kind of all go hand in hand.
And with regard to professional development in a responsive classroom, we're expanding our training this year, and more staff members are going to receive professional development addressing responsive classroom.
Any other questions?
Is there any part of this to include parents in the process?
So hopefully, anytime student behavior comes to the attention of an administrator, parents are involved in that conversation, in that process. You know, if you get more into the more formal restorative practices, such as conferences, formal conferences, parents would absolutely be reached out to, because the one requirement of the formal conference is that everyone involved in the behavior, both the person who had the action, the behavior, and people who were impacted, all have to agree to be involved in the conference, and they all get to identify a support person to come to the conference with them, whether that be a parent, a teacher, a coach. So parents would absolutely be involved at that level, but they should be involved essentially in all levels.
Looking at things that, you know, you get it for spending time as well as at school.
Sure. I mean, to the extent that parents can engage in emotional dialogue at home, affective statements, affective questioning. I mean, some of the questions, they're not as kind of emotionally heavy as you would think. It's just asking the student, the child, to reflect on, how do you think that impacted other people? How do you think, you know, what do you think you can do to right that situation now? So really just asking them to just be a little bit more reflective regarding their behavior.
I just wanted to add a couple more things, Meg. Sure. Although there's not going to be specific training with restorative practices, we do have contracts with the Mental Health Association and CPC and the YMCA, and we are planning different mental health, social, emotional learning workshops for parents at sometime during the course of the year. I also want to add that the middle schools and the high schools have a program called Suite 360, which is aligned with restorative practices, and the high schools have had great success implementing a variety of non-punitive disciplinary opportunities, conferencing, journaling, things like that have really been offered to students an opportunity to reflect, and it's been pretty productive. Right, Ace?
Any other questions?
Any other questions for Dr. Young?
All the participants, people who have participated in this, is that going to be a bit like from River Plaza, there's someone there? We know who it is, or is it going to be like?
So your principal, Mr. Whitman, and your SBSS participated. And a lot of this information wasn't new. People just were looking for a more formal kind of training around it, just to make sure we were on the right track.
And this is for whether you have an IEP, whether you, this is all kids.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, if there are no other questions for Dr. Young, we'll move on to.
Thank you.
Can't wait to be a center of attention.
So the first thing I'll say, I'll bring, some of you may be there right now, but I'll bring you back to maybe some earlier parent pictures. I'm going to spell 2 words for you, because one is the brave word and one is the release word. I'll talk about that in a minute. I don't want to say them right now. It's YES and OKAY. So I'm going to use those 2 words. I'm going to show you a little bit what we've been learning, the 8 dogs that are currently involved in this process. So I just want to spell those words. Sometimes I think you know what I'm saying. So what we've worked on a lot thus far is just basically eye contact, some leash work, some command words, and some hand signals. 8 weeks of training thus far, and again, I'll explain a little more about that. So I say his name, he gives me his eyes, the hand signal, and I say yes. And the release word's okay. He stays in this position till, oh, I said it. And I'm not used to doing this like a presentation yet. Okay. And then okay knows he can then go get his treat, okay? Come on. Yes. Okay. So he knows not to move until this release word. Here's his release word. Wait. Okay, let's go. Then he gives me his eyes. Yes. So it's all about eye contact, and he knows he gets treatment eye contact. So right there, I just showed you obviously sit, a hand signal. Wait is something we use more than stay. And let's see if we'll do it now. Sometimes he gets excited with, he knows he's gonna get a treat. So we actually been working on lately rewarding without, just verbal praise. Wait. So the sit on the wait is very like an advanced skill. I don't know why he does that, but this is like if you're coming to say the class is changing and there's a lot of kids in the hallway, you want them to WIT. Okay, let's go. And he gives eye contact. Yes, good boy. All right, so air dogs. There's been a few staff members I know that have brought forward ideas of therapy dogs in the school in the past recent year or 2. So we saw a comprehensive program. There's a nonprofit organization out of Princeton. It's called Attitudes in Reverse. And the lady that started that nonprofit lost her son to self-harm, and her dog became comfort for her, so that she started this nonprofit organization where she goes into schools and trains teams of dogs, because we all know the effects of
What's the name of the organization?
Air Dogs. Attitudes in Reverse. So the website is called air.ngo. Air.ngo. It's a little. So they partnered with, we saw this comprehensive program they did in Hopewell Valley School District, where 8 administrators and our counselors were trained to bring dogs to school on a daily basis. So I brought the program to Mr. Ranella. With the support of him and Mrs. Walker, we started training in June. So currently there are 8 dogs in the district at 8 different schools. They are not certified yet to work with students directly. Every Tuesday they are in the buildings because We have training every Tuesday. It's a 38-week program. So we're in week 8. The dogs graduated from their first class 2 weeks ago, and now we're in the second week of our intermediate session. Halfway through this, certification and testing. The insurance is through like Air Dogs, so we're a partnership with them. All right. So people ask me, well, what's the dog going to do? Dogs can only work they can't be overworked. They can only work every other day, like 3 days a week, basically. So we are evolving on what the dogs will actually do on a daily basis. But this is Ace, by the way. I'm sorry to introduce him. I kind of wanted to get the training thing out of the way. This is Ace. He's a year-and-a-half-old Australian Shepherd and Poodle mix. One of the 8 dogs involved. So I see things on a daily basis. So for instance, we had a student the other day when the thunderstorm came in who has had some issues and he lost his father to cancer, unfortunately, last year. Thunder really scares him. The storm was coming in, he was like melting down. So right there, we were an opportunity for him to be able to meet with Ace and calm his nerves a little. We also have a lot of kindergarten students and some other students that sometimes having separation anxiety from their parents or what have you, and they get upset at points throughout the day and they cry. There's also just general on a daily basis, students go in crisis for various reasons. Staff members go in crisis for various reasons. I had one staff member, she really wasn't being good with sharing, and we had this conversation. It was uncharacteristic of her, and she was kind of really adamant. I saw a side of her that I'd never seen before, and I said, well, you're not good at sharing? She goes, I didn't say that. I go, well, yeah, you basically did. You're not good at sharing. So anyway, it was like a joke. But the minute I had to take him out to the bathroom. The minute she saw him, I think she walked away with me like shooting me daggers. But I told her she wasn't good at sharing. I just called it like it is. But the minute she saw the dog, she was like, oh my God. I was like, oh, there's the lady I know. So they can help our staff just as much as they can, our student population as well. So I think so again, we're in 8. So we've learned eye contact, wait, sit, stay, right? What else? He's pretty good.
He's an advanced learner.
Well, they say this is my first dog I ever owned in my life. But they say that when I was reading about them, they say sometimes call them the Einstein breed because they're 2 very smart dogs breed together. Any questions?
Which schools?
I'm a Leonardo. Oh, which schools are involved? There's 8. So it's High School North.
High School South.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. High School North, High School South, Bayview, Brewer Plaza, Thorne, Leonardo, Village School, and Harmony School. So they have the parameters of the program. The dog has to be the faculty member's dog, and the faculty member cannot be a classroom teacher. So it has to be someone that has some flexibility in their schedule and not basically in the class all day per se. So at High School South is the media specialist, and then it's mostly SPSSs or guidance counselors at the high school level. Guidance counselor, middle school level, guidance counselor, and then the SPSSs at the elementary schools, the other elementary schools involved.
So it's 38 weeks of training, so it really won't be used in schools this year, or
I think when we move closer, so there are some testing that goes on. See, because it's all about insurance, right? So like the organization, which we partner with them, so we're like in lockstep with Attitudes in Reverse, and they provide us with a certain amount of liability insurance. So they don't really, and Tricia is the training. I wouldn't, for some people, maybe going so slow, but it's all about not putting anybody in harm or the dog in harm. So it's a very slow process, and there'll be some. So I would think maybe by the end of the school year, after one of the second test that we have, it may be, but as of right now, they can't do meet and greets and things of that nature. So the kids have seen the dog. I mean, I take them out to the bathroom, and all we say to the students is, oh, he's in training right now. You can't really interact with him. But they kids at Leonardo have seen the dog. They know there's one there, per se. Yes?
Just, my neighbor has a therapy dog. She's a teacher in autistic programs. And I didn't hear some of the schools that I think traditionally have autistic programs.
the dog?
It was volunteer, actually. It was like who volunteered in the school. So this was round one. We were just kind of testing it out. And now, you know, with the success that we've seen already, like we can expand that.
And another piece is, you know, those dogs aren't, although they'll be at those buildings primarily most of the time, they're not tied directly to that building. So once they're certified, if staff members have the availability and there's an opportunity, they could visit other schools.
Right, so to that point as well, I mean, some of the reasons when Mr. Rennell and I met with Trish Baker, you know, therapy dogs unfortunately sometimes respond to tragedy, right? So whether an adult or a student, something significant happens, or there's an emergency in the district, we call counselors in. Well, at that point, as long as they're all ready to go, we'll call the dogs in as well to help students and staff, you know, get through any difficult times that may arise. And they will, to Mr. Rennell's point as well, at the end of the program or somewhere in the middle, they're all going to get district-specific harnesses. We'll have the MTPS patch on them. So they're not, to this point, like, if I need to go somewhere with a dog, because I know that a lot of the schools, to your point, have, over the years, have self-contained programs and that nature. Monthly, they would call a dog in, the student would read. So I have already teachers telling me, like, they want to set a time where, you know, weekly time where he can come in, the students can read to him, so students can read to the dog. Yes.
Are there particular breeds that are, I happen to have 2 Aussie Doodles, so I know they're perfect service dog breeds. Are there particular breeds that you require to be in the program that are, you know,
Not necessarily, and the tough answer is, you know, not every dog passes. So we have 8 dogs there right now, and a couple of them are, we have I think 3 labs. We have a Bernedoodle, an Aussie Doodle, and then like 2, maybe a Dachshund, and then maybe a Mutt. And you know, and Trish has already told me that the one dog we need a lot more work per se, you know. So so no, there's really no specification on age and or breed. Hey.
Good job.
Yes. Okay. Each wants to be fed. Yes.
Was the dog provided by the program, or is
They were not.
So this is your dog that you decided to enter into as a student in the program?
Yes.
And that's a good point, because that goes to when we were introducing the program, we met with all the administrators of all the buildings to ask for any volunteers. And some of, you know, some of the buildings just didn't have members that either had a dog or were necessarily interested in this time.
Do you think that this is something that could evolve into students participating, like getting involved in that as like a career field for dog training? It's a pretty good career field. If some of the students showed interest in it, is that something that would ever be in?
I'm not sure. It's a good question. It's a good question. Yeah, I'm not sure.
I'll sign whatever it takes.
The first person that says that.
What's the availability to the students? Is it something that the teachers recommend, and then, you know, because I know my daughter would have a personal crisis every day.
I'm sure we're going to have to navigate that as well. So it is evolving as to what their roles are. They're going to be right in the school community. They'll be there every day. So certainly you can't have students task avoidance to come see the dog. And like I said to you, I've already had teachers that said that they would like to have him come to a morning meeting. They would like to have a scheduled time weekly where certain students could read to the dog. So that's how it's going to kind of evolve. So I really don't have the answers yet because they're not fully in the schools yet per se.
I had a question about allergies too. I had a parent who was very allergic. My brother was very allergic. What I understand he's a poodle mix, but is that going to come into play too?
So I think when we get to that point in training, because there are a lot of things we're learning to work with our dogs right now. We really haven't necessarily learned how to like meet and read. And when I say that is that I know, we do know, she's talked a lot about is that when students or even adults meet the dog, you give the backside of the dog, no one should touch in the face ever for safety, anything like that. So those things will all come. And at first, my first thought to that question, because we have thought about it per se and really haven't instructed, is that for the students that know they're allergic, they would just have to avoid if the dog went into class, and the teacher would know, they would have to just avoid, just be like, we teach our students to eventually be advocates for themselves at a certain age, like, oh, I have a niece that highly allergic to foods and she reads labels. Yeah, just when she got to that point,
Right.
But prior to that point, other people were advocates for her.
Right.
So it's kind of the same, I'm sure that's going to be the same procedure. Yes. Question? Do you have a question? Yes.
Does he go to work with you even on the days he's not working? I know you said there's training on Tuesdays. Is he in the school the other days as well, just in your office, or does he stay home?
He stays home.
Okay.
I mean, because that's what everyone thought, kind of wanted, but we kind of made that clear. And again, it's about what the parameters are for the program. She's Tricia Baker, the program lead, kind of pushed that down to us. And the reason why they're there Tuesdays is because some of our staff members would be able to get home. Trains at 3:45.
Okay.
4:45. So the other thing is that I commend our staff all the time because this is voluntary, and a lot of them are besides me, they're all 10-month employees. So they're going well above and beyond their normal work day to participate in this program. So the sacrifice those. So when you find out the school and the person, it's something very nice that they're really going above and beyond to bring this program to the individual school.
If they pass the certification, how many days a week would Ace be in?
Only allowed 3.
Okay.
They don't want, again, parameters of overworking the dog. They need breaks.
So even if he's not working, I guess that was my question. I wonder if you just hang out in your office and not interact with kids on certain days.
We have to, good brings up another point. They have to be able to go in a crate.
Okay.
Because part of it is that when they're in the office on break, the doors have to be locked and they got to be in the crate. Now, if I'm in there with him and the door's locked on Tuesdays now, I'll keep my foot on the leash, and no one can get in anyway with that. So, but for the most part, during lunch, now they're not around food.
Okay.
During lunch, when I go into lunch, I put him in the crate, and he stays in there. He's okay. When I come back in the office and start talking to my secretary, he cries because he hears me. Other than that, he's okay in the crate. That was a good question. They're in crates.
Okay, are there any other questions for Ace and Mr. Smith? Okay, thank you very much.
No other questions? We'll sign autographs later, right? About 3 days a week, and he has to have certain breaks during the day, an hour and 45 minutes. So Ace and I are going to have a contract. I'm going to protect Mrs. Walker. I think I have to be on that. I think I might have to get on the same work schedule. I think that's part of the thing. If anybody has any questions, you can email me.
Thanks, Pete and Ace. Hard act to follow after that. Good morning still. My name is Pat Ronell. I'm one of the assistant superintendents here. And I just want to take a couple of minutes and kind of bring everyone up to speed with a program that we've had in the district for about 4 years. The last couple of years, we necessarily haven't been able to implement it because of the pandemic that we're all currently living through. But it's Unified Sports. Some of you, I'm sure, have heard of it, have witnessed it, and even maybe possibly been a part of it. So what Unified Sports is, it's a cooperation between the Special Olympics of New Jersey and our school district. And Play Unified is an opportunity, and we've had opportunities like this before in our district, but this is an opportunity where our special education students and our typically developing students have the opportunity to work together and also compete together in sports. And I think what makes Play Unified different than some of the other programs that we've had in our district, if you want to go to the next page there, this is really actually a competitive program. There's two sides of it. There's one is a competitive program and one's more of a player development and mentoring program. We've had a lot of player development mentoring programs in district before, but Play Unified is really the first opportunity that we've had that's a very competitive program. When you go to the trainings for Unified Sports, The trainers talk about how it's supposed to be authentic. There are winners and losers in the programs, and they want all of the athletes to be able to experience that opportunity. So that's the major difference between Play Unified and other programs that we've had in our district before. So I think we brought it into the district in about 2017. It kind of just sprung on us. We were invited to participate in the Meet of Champions, which is, I'm not sure where it was held, but it's the final competition for the track and field. So we developed a team. I was the principal of High School South at the time. We developed a team with some of our High School South students. Practiced 3 or 4 times, had some practices. Mr. Trezza was the coach at that time. They practiced their handoffs. We had a relay team. We went down to the Meet of Champions, and I think we actually were the champs at that time. Very limited number of schools. We were lucky to be one of them that participated. The following year, it became a little bit more developed. We again participated in it, but for some reason, the Meet of Champions, we weren't able to participate in that. So that year, Freehold Regional also had some Play Unified sports as well. So it was the Freehold Regional School District, ourselves, and there may have been 1 or 2 other teams that participated in it. Again, only track and field. 2019, I think it was, pre-pandemic, right before the pandemic, we expanded into a basketball program. So we had unified sports basketball, and this time it was a combination of both Middletown High School North and Middletown High School South. So everybody had the opportunity to participate, and we actually ran both of these programs. The first series was a player development and mentoring, which was open to everybody. Everyone could participate. High School North, High School South, we alternated the practice sites, so everybody had an opportunity to practice in their home gym. And then there was a culminating event at the end of that program where everybody was allowed to participate. All the parents came in and witnessed all the great things that were happening. Then after that, we went into more of the competitive stage where those students that wanted to compete and had, again, it's the authentic experience. So those higher level student athletes made the team for the competitive. Again, it was with mix of High School North and High School South. They practiced for a number of weeks, and then we were trying to branch out and find as many schools that were actually participating in Play Unified as possible. There was only one other school at that time that was participating in the basketball program, which was Neptune. So at High School South, they held the first ever short conference Play Unified Championship. It was between Middletown, actually United Middletown, because it was it was North and South together, so we were unified there. But it was also the Play Unified Short Conference Championship between between Middletown and Neptune. And I have to say, I've participated and witnessed a lot of high school sporting events. That ranks right up there with the top. It was an unbelievable evening. I'm getting choked up thinking about it. Parents were there. Their peers were there in the stands. We had referees volunteer to come in and officiate the game. It was one of the best sporting events that I ever had the opportunity to be a part of. And we won. So we were the champions. I'm sorry, I forgot about the slides. So this was the player development. This was everybody that competed in the player development. And everybody gets a shirt. They actually design their own shirts. So the student athletes have the opportunity to design their own shirts. They design their shirts, they get them. This was the last event for the player development piece. And then the following is the short conference championship. So, at every short conference championship, we have this banner that the champions hold. In this case, we had both Neptune and Middletown hold it because, it wasn't about winning or losing, although there is a piece of that that's involved. But that was a picture of the evening. And like I said, it was a really special evening that time. So moving forward, we've applied again. So far, it's been funded through a grant through the Special Olympics. Mr. Carroll, our athletic director, just applied last week, I think, for our grant. We're hoping to get it again. This year, we're looking to do basketball once again and track. Track did not happen in 2019 because that was right as the pandemic was coming in. So we're looking to participate, same type of model again, High School North, High School South, together, and participate in the basketball and the track. And then the last piece of Play Unified that Special Olympics really emphasizes, and we have had this component in our course selection guide for a number of years. We called it Challenger Phys Ed. but this is unified sports or unified physical education. And it's an opportunity, it's a phys ed elective. And it's for those students that are part of Team Unified, that they can participate in this phys ed class. And it really gives them the opportunity to get another practice in. So we practice after school and we practice during the day. But there's much more to it than just practicing. Our Challenger phys ed has been going on for a long time, before I was at High School South. And I was there for, it's been over a decade now, so it's been going on for a long time, where our special ed students and our typically developing students come together and they take phys ed together. It's the regular phys ed curriculum with modifications where needed, but it's a regular phys ed curriculum and they work together. So this is really kind of, actually, Mr. Carroll and I went to, it was out by Ewing, but it wasn't Ewing High School, where they have had unified sports for a number of years. And they were showing us all these great things, like the unified phys ed. They were showing us, we have Circle Friends. They had another club. They were showing us all this stuff, and you're like, we're doing all this stuff. Like we're kind of ahead of the curve here. So we're really just kind of aligning what we had already done to what the Special Olympics and Play Unified are doing. And that's where we're at. So we're excited, and fingers crossed, we'll be 2 times.
This is high school level.
Yes, this is at high school level.
How do kids raise their hand to participate? From both, is it, you have to sign up for the elective through the Challenger phys ed program?
No, you mean for the course itself, for this phys ed course? It'll be in the course selection guide.
Okay.
It'll be in the course selection guide. When we actually did the sports, like the competitions, it was through the school. They put it out through the schools to participate. It was in our newsletter. They put it out. It was, we publicized it very well for students to participate.
What time of year was this last time, so we keep an eye out?
So that was held, don't hold me to the date exactly, but it was in the winter time. The one, I don't want to say regulation, but the one thing that Unified Sports talks about is they want it to happen at the same time as the sport, because they don't want the starting basketball player, that one of the starting basketball players to then come over and play Unified. It's supposed to be going at the same time, so you have your basketball team. But those students that are on the basketball team or in the track team or whatever the sport is, they can help, and they did help last year. They did, or 2 years ago, they did help as volunteer coaches. But when we get it out, we'll make sure everybody knows about it. Okay. Thank you.
All right, now we'll turn it over to Middletown Friends of Diverse Learners with Kira.
All right, I'll try to be quick. MTFODL has been busy. We've already had our first meeting in September. We meet in the Middletown Library. We also provide a hybrid Zoom option, as our parents sometimes struggle with getting away at night. Our first meeting of doing both worked out very well. We probably had about equal participation through Zoom as well as sitting in the library. And we also met with the district administrators on September 30th. So some really good things going on in the district that came up after the meeting. At Bayview, we were awarded our 3rd systemic grant to improve inclusion over a 3 to 5 year period. That's through a combination of NJCIE and Montclair, funded by the grant. So we're the only district in New Jersey that, we were the only district with 2. Now we're the only district with 3 systemic grants. Bayview is very unique in that they have many self-contained classes beyond the pull-out resource, LLD. They have the multiply disabled. So they will be an interesting school to go through this process. So everybody was very happy to hear that news. And just a reminder, the work that will be done there benefits the entire school and the district as a whole, as we learn how this all comes together. The other, which we thought was very positive, is that we're looking at person-centered transition planning, training, professional development at the high school level. It was developed by the Boggs Center and Rutgers and is funded by the Department of Education. And it's an interesting program, although it sounds very logical, but when we tend to be in, with IEPs, we tend to focus on deficits and how we can, help the kids overcome the deficit. In this process, it's really a focus on strengths, and we bring together all sorts of people in their life, whether it's parents, whatever, to kind of flesh out and help figure out how these young adults move forward and transition into the next stage of their life. So we thought that was very positive. And again, funded by the DOE. On the inclusion pilot update, last year finished the quality indicators. This year we're going to be adding parents to the committees with the next steps to draft a plan. For example, how will the pilot work? What will the structure of the classroom look like? So those are the goals for this year. Emphasis on the district is not stopping or waiting on completion of these grants to include kids. If parents are interested in including kids, it is happening now. Also, we discussed, and I'll just cover some of the issues we discussed because a lot of this discussion is actually kind of covered some of these items. They came up for the parents in our meeting. So a lot of the parents were very interested in social skills programs. Parents are eager to see what is out there, particularly given the isolation of the pandemic. And some of them feel that they're still a bit isolated in the school environment. It's actually the first time that I've heard a few parents from a high school level stand up and ask about social skills or social emotional learning. The parents were also interested in how the district is helping with regression and catching up, and also dealing with behaviors and developing proactive approaches. So some of the discussions kind of touched on that. Also, the district mentioned their staffing needs, paraprofessionals, B and C level paraprofessionals, and substitutes, and how they're trying to work around those staffing issues. We're very interested in getting information out on MTPS, especially for pre-K and primary levels. So appreciate any help and everything you guys do in communicating about meetings or getting flyers out. Upcoming events, parent meeting, second Thursday at the library or Zoom. So we have scheduled October 14th and November 11th. We have a December 1 inclusion presentation that will be done. And in January or February, we're looking at a dyslexia presentation as well.
Can I just emphasize how desperate we are for paraprofessionals? If you know anybody, if you or anyone you know, anybody in the school is, wants to be a para, please let us know. Go online, go and apply. It stays open. Call them up. Call up the principal. Call up, Charlene. Just Charlene O'Hagan, because we really are having that is really a problem.
And it's not just during school hours, it's impacting our kids because there are no paraprofessionals for after school activities like track and field. So there are different times, different hours. I'm sure that people would work. I mean, somebody likes to run and would like to, work with a group in cross country, things like that.
But they can work up to, it's like 29.75 hours, but they can work less if that's, what their schedule is, and we piecemeal a schedule together for the week for the child or for the classroom. But, on hierarchy, we're having difficulties with all hiring right now, but whether it's a school, a restaurant, whatever, everybody's having trouble. But I would say paras are our main concern, and then after that, substitute teachers and paras. But every time we get a pool of para subs, we immediately just siphon them off to become paras. They get on, people leave. It's just really difficult to find paras right now.
Since you mentioned that, just for reference, I know people, and I personally have applied for a job as para, and they're not getting calls back.
back that you hit submit, because that's a common mistake.
Oh, no, I have, like-
I'm just saying, you or
Yeah,
your
I
friends
just-
just
I know
pass that along.
for me
But also,
personally, but-
contact the Human Resources Office.
Yeah.
I have 3 secretaries. One of them will follow up and find out what's going on. There may be a reason that the application got held up, but they can look at it from the back end.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, like, just as a reference, like, you know, if people, you know, you're saying that you need powers, but I know personally people who have applied and have received the submission email, and like I said, I know I did personally myself at 2 different schools and never received a call back from either school. So, just for reference.
If it's a specific position in the school, sometimes they'll do a school one.
Yeah, like, there was some on there that.
Well, maybe
like,
that position was
districts for
filled, and
years.
so that's why. Maybe
Yeah.
we should look at.
I actually spent a couple hours yesterday going through all the applications for paraprofessionals specifically, but for a couple other teacher positions as well. And most of the names that I pulled up were crossed off and said that they were filled. So we'll have to look into, afterwards, give me your name so I can look into see what's going on, or any other names you may know.
I don't know, I'm sure most people are very tech savvy, but maybe check spam, because I know I recently had a position, and what a lot of the principals do is they send interview requests out through email. I had like 9 people that applied, I sent 9 emails out. It generates it from AppleTrack, and only 3 people, so maybe that would be something, maybe in the spam, maybe they did get an interview. I'm just guessing, but I know that's how I do it. So that could be something that is maybe impacting, I'm not sure. I can only say that I sent 9 out and I only had 3 people respond. So it's not a great rate of response.
If someone's working as a para part-time in another district, they also apply to work
Yes.
part-time here?
Yeah. And what the feedback I'm getting from speaking to applicants, because like I said yesterday, we spent hours on this going through and trying to clean up where we were at with our applicant pool, and get a handle on who's been hired, who's been placed, who's refused and said that they applied but now they've accepted jobs elsewhere. We are getting feedback that some people need benefits. What I would highly encourage anyone who's interested in that and who wants benefits is apply to ESS. ESS, if you work over a certain number of hours and there you're unlimited in your hours, they do offer health benefits to their employees, which is a huge benefit for a lot of people who need that in their life. So, and we do have permanent building subs who work every day. You know, they're working over 30 hours a week. So they will qualify after a certain level of time for benefits through ESS. That was one of the reasons that the district partnered with ESS, because when we met with different companies and agencies that to potentially work with, they were one of the few that did offer employee health benefits. So we have permanent building subs for both paras and teachers, and we're in need of both. So depending on, you know, your interests and your credentials, you know, that's something to consider as well.
I'm actually glad you brought that up, because I was going to say that I think a big issue is the benefits. And I personally know people who work in this district and they're kept under a certain amount of hours so they do not get benefits. So that's an issue that should be addressed.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we're all subject to the Affordable Care Act, so.
Paras are key. We forget about them. They were the ones that, when we were going through this pandemic, that really had to sit and go face to face and hands on. And for those of us that have kids with special needs, they are really our lifeblood. I mean,
But we don't forget about them.
Yeah.
We know how important they are.
Yeah.
But they need benefits in case they get hurt and things like that. They need to live too.
Okay. As we wrap up our first meeting, our next meeting is November 10th. Mrs. Walter, Mr. Burt, I don't know if you wanted to speak to the change that we're going to be experiencing. The next meeting is going to be run by...
Yeah, the next meeting will be run by Bridget, and that will be a parent advisory council meeting. And Bridget at that meeting will go over the, you know, the grants and explain, you know, what the purpose and, you know, the role of the members are.
Yeah, so essentially what will happen is everybody who's attending the meeting today will then roll over into this advisory council. Because in discussion with Mrs. Walker, we felt like this is an excellent resource. You folks have been, you're connected, you're engaged, you know, and it seemed like the next obvious step would be, since this is the birth of this council, that we get parents involved from here find the experience fulfilling. I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be a different approach for PIC members. I think it'll bring a little bit of refreshment to what our responsibilities are. Again, if you have issues or concerns in the meantime or in the interim, and that you can't wait till January, please bring them to me. We will vet them with administration. We will talk to them if we can get to
I recommend that you go through the chain of command, though. I don't want to interrupt, because you start with the teacher, but if that, if you have to go to the principal, sometimes the teacher is the person to answer the question. They can best answer questions at that level, because they know specifics that we up in central office might not know. And if they don't know the answer, they'll either direct you to who to go to, or they'll find the answer for you. So I would start there. Because usually someone who, they'll send a question to Margie sent it to me, I just go down to the principals to find out, okay, what's going on with this, that type of thing. So I think the chain of command really works well in terms of getting anyone who has a question or an issue, they can get that addressed or answered. I really do.
Okay. If there's no anything to bring to the table before we adjourn? All right, thank you very much for coming. I appreciate it. Thank you for taking time out of your day to be here, and I look forward to seeing you next month.